Welcome to Pitch It To Me podcast, a show about the subjective past, present, and potential future of flesh and blood design. Today's episode will be a smorgasbord episode, where each of our hosts brings something different to the table. You can find us across all socials, such as Bluesky and Instagram, at Pitch It To Me podcast.
I'm Clark.
I'm Joel.
And I'm Fuzzy.
And welcome back, everybody.
Woo!
We skipped a week of recording, but we're back, everybody. We're back and we're better than ever here, right, Joel?
Oh, yeah.
Right, Clark? That's right, Clark. Fuzzy, how about you?
I don't feel better than...
Oh, no!
We found the missing link, or the weak link.
I have got a pretty mean cold.
Yeah, it's been sticking around.
Yeah, that's why we didn't record last week, but we couldn't skip 2 days just because Fuzzy has some rinky-dink cold. So I'm just going to be kind of keeping it easy this episode. I'm on the mend, don't worry.
Yeah, we did the equivalent of the sports injection to just like fill his knee with a bunch of cartilage, but in this case, I guess it's like clearing out.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Do you not know that they do that in sports? If someone's like injured but they're a star player, they just like
you didn't inject
them
me with
a bunch
anything.
of fucking chemicals.
You didn't inject me with anything.
Yeah, but you're taking a bunch of drugs to be here.
Of your knowledge. You sound great through the hazmat suit. I got you.
All right, well, let's do a little bit of turn zero. We've been gone for 2 weeks, so some things happened, like nationals. How was everybody's U.S. Nats?
My competitive part of Nats went pretty poorly, although I was also sick right before nationals and like kind of during nationals. So I didn't really have any time to prepare as much as I like to before big events. But I went into it knowing that, and I was just working on salvaging my weekend, enjoying my time in Vegas, enjoying my time with my friends that I don't get to see as often as I like to. So I had a really good weekend despite not doing well competitively.
Mm-hmm. I think I had a slightly better nationals experience than Joel did. Competitively, I went 5-3, just losing my winning in for day 2 at the calling. In fact, Talon also went 5-3. And Fuzzy, didn't you also go 5-3?
Yep, it was a almost exceptional day for all three of us.
Yeah, every single one of us lost our winning in, which is just so tragic.
But we all got there, you know?
We all got to there. And honestly, like, for first time playing Gravy, or like second time ever playing Gravy, I felt really, really good about my run. I also pulled absolute gas. I pulled a Marvel Gravy Bones in my first ever sealed pool, and I pulled a Riches of Tropal Donnie.
God, you're so annoying.
To be fair, I bought like a case when I pulled that Riches,
sure.
So like, I'm still in the negative, I think.
No. We don't think about the cost. We just think about what we pulled.
Yeah, I pulled a Riches, so I am up tremendous.
Absolutely.
Fuzzy, what about you? How do you have any special memories about Nats this year?
I was just really enjoying doing some sightseeing with my friends. We went to go see Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah.
Fancy dinner. That was really fun.
Joel had a fucking orgasmic experience.
Bro, that was everything I wanted it to be and more.
He got a beef Wellington, and he beef Wellington in his hand. I don't know what the fuck I'm saying.
No, that's exactly what happened. I beefed up all in there. I scalloped in there too. It was everything.
Nice. So yeah, I just had a really fun weekend.
Awesome. Yeah, I've heard it on a few other podcasts too, but everyone seems to really enjoy Nats specifically because it's just all the people you know from locals and then a lot of really cool people from outside the state. We almost forgot. We met fucking Old Barnacle from our Discord.
Old Barnacle. Shout out Old Barnacle.
What's up, dude? It was such a pleasure meeting you. And I know we were like both dog tired by the time we ended up seeing each other, but it was still really cool that you not only you came out, but also took the time to, meet each one of us. So that was really special.
Yes. Actually, a surprising amount of fans said hello to me.
Yeah. Didn't we meet Abby as well?
Yeah, Abigail. Mm-hmm. One of the first, like, non-locals who really started listening to us and has remained a consistent listener.
Yeah.
I also had a gas game. Like, such a good fucking game against her in the calling where we were both, like, 4-2. And it was just fighting to see who would go to the winning in.
Yeah.
Such a good game.
Yeah, solid weekend.
Oh, yeah. Shout out to everybody who came up and said hello, said that they listened to just, like, one episode of ours. I got a lot of that. Like, I've heard an episode of yours recently. I'll check out the rest of your stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of that going on.
Yeah. Well, before we get into the episode, be sure to let us know in the comments what you guys think about News Living Legend. It's not the topic for our episode, spoiler alert, but we'll probably discuss it and or misfail sometime soon.
Yeah, we're still not sure what we want to do with our Living Legend episodes, but we definitely don't want to just ignore it when a hero leaves the meta.
Right. Especially one as impactful as new.
Yeah, and it's the last misfail hero, so
Yeah.
maybe that all gets grouped up together. But speaking of, Fuzzy, what is today's episode going to be like?
Today, each of our hosts has brought a different topic to the table that we're going to mix all together into one big, potluck.
Yeah, this is a potluck episode.
Clark's going to be talking about how Welcome to Rathe is not the end-all, be-all of good flesh and blood. Joel's going to talk about the rotation system a little bit, and I'll be talking about new expansions and who are they for? Existing heroes or new heroes?
Yeah, so some interesting topics. I'm going to go ahead and just steal the mic here and jump in on a red pitch.
Hell yeah.
Fantastic.
Welcome to Rathe isn't the end-all be-all, guys. So this was a conversation that popped up recently in our Discord. And I had a great, short, little, very respectful conversation with Marcus about it. And honestly, I do want to say, I don't think this is a common opinion held by a large section of the community, but I do think it is held by a certain population of the community in Flesh and Blood.
Which opinion is that?
That Welcome to Rathe is like this ideal that all other sets need to get measured against. And the game was good back when it was just Welcome to Rathe. When that was the one set, and it was like set constructed Welcome to Rathe, that was the best Flesh and Blood had ever been. And I am just not sure if that's true. And I think it is a very reductive point of view, and I kind of want to get into why. I think when I first started thinking about this was way back in one of Fuzzy's pitches. Fuzzy had a pitch way back when where he described how simple and basic the original 8 heroes were. Now, in Fuzzy's point, this had to do with not just the Welcome to Rathe heroes, but also the Arcane Rising heroes. The 8 untalented heroes in this sort of quote-unquote alpha version of Flesh and Blood. Fuzzy, can you remind everyone sort of what was the thesis statement of that pitch?
Yeah, basically that the first 8 heroes in the game are meant to be a sort of foundation that you can lay on top of as we go forward in the game. So as they release more classes and talents, there will always be this backlog of heroes that people are always going to be tied to, that are always going to be appealing in some way, and hopefully are going to show us where the basics of the game are and will be relevant for the future.
Yeah. And I think that was a very insightful comment on the game, especially as people who we weren't playing back then, right? We came in after the fact. And so I think we got to see a little bit more of LSS's design as it kept going. And I want to be clear, that's because there is a lot more design. James White has said in interviews that Phi was the very first hero that he ever designed. Phi didn't come out until I started playing the game in Uprising. That is, fairly far away. It was like the 3rd talented set that we got, right? That post Tales of Aria, post Monarch. There was a lot of design that had already come out before we get to essentially James White's first ever design for Flesh and Blood. And from the beginning, Assassin and Necromancer were established as classes that they were going to make. Arachne Huntsman was supposed to be one of these 8 original heroes that just ended up not quite working in the limited set and had to get delayed until Dynasty. I think it should be very telling to everybody that this game is not designed in an extremely linear manner. Things are designed and held onto, dropped, changed, transformed, or sometimes literally just kept in the back pocket for years at a time until they find the right set, the right moment for them to enter the game. And when we talk about Welcome to Rathe as sort of this origin point, I think people treat it very, very linearly. As this is the beginning of Flesh and Blood. And no, it's not. there was years of design before it, and much of that design did not come after Welcome to Rathe. I think another great example of this is that we're still waiting for the Cleric Hero class to come out, right? In the lore book, there's the professions page. I don't know how many times I've mentioned this. I mentioned this so much in my pitches. But there is this page with the professions, and it has all the classes on it. And I think we've seen just about every single profession listed there, except for Cleric.
An alchemist.
An alchemist, yes, thank you, Fuzzy. Like, there are still 2 classes that were considered foundational enough to be listed in the lore book that we just haven't seen yet. To me, that's crazy. It means that there are still designs from before the game, before Welcome to Rathe ever came out, that they're still waiting on to release. Welcome to Rathe is not the start of Flesh and Blood, but it is the start of when we all first started playing Flesh and Blood. Right? So this was the great counter argument that Marcus sort of put forward, which is a little bit of a death of the author. If you guys don't know what death of the author is, it is a sort of literary conversation where what matters more, the original intent of the author or how readers have interpreted their words. So I kind of want to open it up to you two. What do you think is more important? James White's intended designs and his history with the game, or more of the external perception of the game coming from the fans and the players of Flesh and Blood?
I think with Flesh and Blood, James White has put so much time and energy into planning out not just the first 5 years of Flesh and Blood that we've lived through, but also the next 5, maybe 10, 15 years. So knowing that James White has such a key impact on the future of the game and where it's going to be going, it makes sense to me that we want to be looking really closely about what he's done in the past and how that could affect the future.
Mm-hmm. No, it certainly is still extremely important, right? Joel, I think one of the things that you had mentioned that is another reason why I think I'm stuck on this idea of power creep. Is it really power creep if it was always intended to go here anyway?
Oh, that's interesting.
Right? I mean, like, I guess it is still an upward slope of cards have more numbers on them now.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't think a 0 cost of blue... would bonds have been printed in Welcome to Rathe? No. But I don't think that's because bonds breaks the game in such a way that it was unprintable then, but because it had a layer of complexity to it that wouldn't have been right for that era. I think what people might be missing is not the power level of Welcome to Rathe, but the simplicity of Welcome to Rathe. And whenever they're asking to sort of like go back to that, or let's go back to when those strategies were good, I think they're asking for a dumbing down of the game that is just never really going to happen because the game's expanded. We have years of expansion and too much design and complexity now embroiled in the game to ever really return to that point, unless we really start messing with some of the bigger systems like Living Legend rotation. Like, if we want every card to be eternal and to never rotate out, I don't know how we're ever going to reduce the complexity of the game back to that point where it was just Welcome to Rathe constructed, you know?
Yeah.
Now, in this pitch, I've mentioned a lot about how James White designs so much of this game and how much of this game was already designed previously, right? I don't want that to be making light of the impact from people like Chris Gehring, Brian Gottlieb, and the other fine members of the dev and design team. They've had a massive impact on the game, limited especially. I think anyone who used to play back in that time could tell you how rough limited was. Joel, do you want to comment? Or Fuzzy?
And it's funny, though, because Welcome to Rathe actually had a really kick-ass limited format that, like, everyone kind of generally likes. But every set after that, really, like, Arcane Rising is a stinker, you know, Monarch
is a fucking mess, man.
Monarch is so unbalanced. 6 prisms, sure.
Tales of Aria is not too bad, but Uprising is a little rough, you know. And then at that point, we're back to the Brian Gottlieb era, where the next one is Outsiders. But like, they haven't all been too bad necessarily. Like, Welcome to Rathe has been really nice. But yeah, limited sets have become a lot more standardized, I feel. You know, there's a little bit more like the hybrid cards being able to make it easier to draft.
Yeah, whether it's hybrids or like the shared pirate pool, the shared mystic pool, the shared draconic, you know, there's always something sort of binding the different points together that definitely didn't used to be the case. Classes definitely used to exist on an island, and then it was like, all right, and generics.
Also, whenever the dev team like united as a force and stopped legendaries being draftable, man, that was the best improvement to limited, I think, too.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was saying earlier, like James White has had a lot of time just to develop this game before he started releasing any of it. But now we have a larger dev team and more ideas in the mix, making improvements and seeing these ideas to fruition. So it's kind of really interesting to see how we're moving from a one author situation to a multi-author situation. It's a much more developed product, and I'm kind of really excited to see where the future of the game goes. I wonder what High Seas would have looked like if it was just James White, right?
Oh, great. Yeah, great point. I wonder what a solo James White set would look like. But at the same time, I wonder what like a solo Brian Gottlieb set would look like. Right?
Oh man.
Or like
let him cook.
And I guess we do see a little bit of this with like the Armory decks where there is a lead designer from the dev and design team.
Mm-hmm.
It's never really James White per se.
Mm-hmm.
It's always someone like Carol taking the lead. And I think that's really interesting too, because I think you get to see how their design skills flex a little bit. The last thing I want to mention in this set, and this is more kind of like a fun little thing. I think I've talked maybe a little heavily, but I kind of want to say, hey, these Welcome to Rathe heroes, they're kind of really broken, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
they all have their strengths to them for sure.
Yeah, well, like not just strengths, but like actually what I think are just straight up toxic designs. Like, Reinar's Intimidate. I think we can all pretty universally agree that getting quad intimidated by Reinar and having to take 20 to the dome fucking sucks. And like is a really toxic play pattern. Like any deck that wants a block just like straight up can't do their game plan. And then you can devote all this time, energy, and value into getting a quad intimidate off just for the opponent to be Syndra and be like, okay, I wasn't gonna block anyway, buddy. Like, it's such a polarizing mechanic, Intimidate, especially once you start stacking Intimidates. I think 1 and 2 Intimidates has always been a fun and fair place for Reinar to exist. But like as they want to print more cards that say Intimidate on them, and as they want to make it easier to discard 6s, I think it just gets more and more toxic in a way that's just not healthy. In a similar way, imagine if Katsu could just, like, reliably tutor every single turn. Oh, wait, we've already seen this with Zen. And it fucking sucks.
Hey. No, I'm just kidding.
To be fair, Zen had other things that were also going for him. Like, he got a free Crouching Tiger every time he tutored. That was kind of big.
Yeah, for, like, Art of War synergies and everything at that time. But, like, I think if Katsu could reliably activate his hero ability every single turn without having to worry about how the opponent blocked... Like, if it just said discard a 0-cost card, go get whatever combo card you want, I think Katsu would be stupid broken.
Sure.
And then, like, Dory, right? What if Dory just didn't have to worry about getting full blocked out? What if she could just stack counters endlessly, whenever she wanted, and you could never stop the counters from Dawnblade? That'd be insanely broken, and she would steamroll, like, everybody. And... Sorry, I don't want to say broken, because, like, you could run Runestack Florian where you have 4 blocks in hand, and you can, like, legitimately stop her from getting counters. But I think the meta would be toxic. I think the play pattern would be toxic. It'd be a really polarizing design. A lot of these Welcome to Rathe designs, if they were just leaned into a little bit more, if they were just a little bit more powerful, if they had a little bit more of that synergy that we've come to expect from modern heroes, I feel like their designs would be pushed in such a way that it would make them toxic and not good for the game.
I mean, I guess, yeah. If these heroes didn't have their control measures on them that made them interesting, they would be toxic.
I think, at least with the Rinthia I'll speak to, there are already cards that she got printed with to make it so that if they play it correctly or your opponent misplays, she can just rack up counters and you can do nothing about it. She has one of her specializations singing Steel Blade. She has access to like Iron Tongue Determination to give Dominate. Like she already has things in her tool to make it that way. And when she's able to run unencumbered by her opponent, or like it doesn't matter what they do, she can just win every matchup. Like she scales very well. And Katsu too, like Fuzzy and a few other local Katsus in our area were cooking with him way before Zen was around. And when he did his double, triple bonds, even though it took some setup, when the on hit was like a all but guarantee, it felt really oppressive. So like those heroes already have the built-in capabilities of doing what you're explaining, Clark, and the fact that there is so much restraint and like their full power is locked behind either their specializations or just they need a lot of work to get their full power fantasy going off. Like it's very telling when they get talented versions and they kind of go explosive, like Zen, for instance.
Yeah.
But what do you think about Bravo, Clark?
Oh yeah, Bravo's in this set. Yeah, no, Bravo's fine. I can't really see Bravo being broken. I mean, I guess if they started printing like 4 for 12 crush effects, but like that's not the numbers. So I don't think it's a problem.
I don't know. He's able to like completely shut down your game plan in a way that many heroes are not able to.
Yeah. Like maybe if there was a chance that he could like play a blue that could become like any red that he wanted. So he could just like like what if he had Katsu's ability to tutor? I guess that's kind of what Showtime is, right?
Yeah, they all have tutors.
Yeah. But I think of all of these designs, Bravo's is the one that reads the least as being broken if complexity creep happened, right? I think Intimidate, the counters, reliable tutoring with combo, I think all of those as designs are more inherently toxic than Mana Sink for some Dominate. But I think this does lead us into Joel's pitch in an interesting way because eventually these heroes are going to be gone. We've already seen Viscerai leave. Azalea's gonna leave. Might already be gone by the time that this episode comes out.
Oh.
Yeah, Dash is probably going to be gone very, very soon. I mean, it's almost like these old heroes are rotating out of the game.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of them are at that threshold of like 500 to 800 points, and it's, only a matter of time before we start seeing the new iterations of these heroes come out. But for Yellow Pitch, I want to talk about the rotation system as a whole and not just like the heroes that are approaching their Living Legend ascension. And before we do that, I'm just going to give a little bit of background about Living Legend and why it made me think of a true rotation format like other TCGs have done in the past. But I'm not going to get into it like in depth like I have with other pitches. Obviously, Living Legend has gone through many different changes, but a lot of them have been points focused. Like they've tweaked how many points are in a season, how many the larger tournaments grants when a hero wins those tournaments. And just recently, they changed how much heroes themselves can earn so that really powerful heroes cannot earn as much in their first year of our legality. And increasing the amount of points that older heroes do if they've been around the block for a little bit and they want to like sort of get them moving along towards their ascension as well. And it sparked a lot of controversy. I think a lot of people had really mixed feelings about this change. How do you guys feel personally?
I mean, we've talked about it on the pod before. I think I'm a big proponent of LSS doing whatever the fuck they want. And if they want to tinker with the system, like, let's do it. Let's see how it works, you know?
Fuzzy's just happy to be here, man.
So true.
Fuzzy's like, what's that? I'm losing Briar? Okay, man. I'll go play Katsu. Oh, Katsu's gone? Okay, man. I'll go play some other hero.
Well, with this system, I don't think I would have lost Briar any quicker. And Katsu's not getting any LL points anytime soon. It's not going to happen.
If anything, Briar would have held on for even longer.
Right.
Because she wouldn't have earned as many points back when she had Ball Lightning and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think ultimately, as a data person where I want to constantly go to Living Legend points as a way of sort of measuring hero success, I'm frustrated by all the changes, and this frustrates it even more because now I want to like retroactively apply these things and be like, who would have LL'd? Who would have stuck around?
Right.
And it's like, you know what? At a certain point, Living Legend points are just not a good way of measuring hero success.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you brought that up because I'm referencing the card guys again with their chart of each of the heroes that and their points they would have had with this change if they had it from the start, and it's just sort of like makes me think about what other alternatives there could be to this system, because even though I do personally like the Living Legend system, I think it's very cool. It's definitely the most unique rotation system out of any TCG I've played, but it has its flaws, as any new system would.
It is a system where LSS has more control over what rotates than I think other games have control over what rotates.
Yes.
Right? When Magic says standard rotates every 2 years, when a new set comes out, you will have those cards for 2 years. Sure, cards can get banned and unbanned, but they will always exist in the legal format for 2 years. And they can't change that, on a whim. It feels like LSS can.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because whenever a hero is especially problematic in a meta, we look to LSS to be like, hey, I know you're doing a lot of stuff over there. Ban this hero. Just delete them. Or, more seriously, like, we need to deal with this card because it's, contributing to a lot of polarizing matchups or whatever. And that's a weird pressure that they put on themselves by having this system in place. Because like you said, Clark, they have all the control, even though there is like a kind of a system where it's supposed to work out on its own. And so I wanted to think about some potential rotation systems that don't have to worry about any points or any intervention from LSS that is still unique to Flesh and Blood. And when I refer to rotation, I'm not talking about like the MTG version of rotation, because Flesh and Blood's release schedule is just way too slow. It would be a little crazy if like each of the powerful heroes would be around for 3 years instead of like a year or a year and a half that they would be with like the point system of Living Legend. Like, I don't think anyone would want to be playing the Living Legend format for a long amount of time as a competitive player. That sounds like the worst experience.
Yeah, it definitely isn't the right thing to do a time-based rotation system. In Flesh and Blood, we definitely don't release sets quick enough.
I mean, we could always extend it, right? Like, what if it was 4 years?
No, I think that is bad. Like, imagine if Mistveil was legal for 4 years.
I would personally be happy, but I know a lot of people would not be happy.
Like, I think it would be really, really frustrating for sets and heroes that felt too powerful to drag on for that long. And I think it's one of the reasons why after 2 years, they've incorporated that 1.5 points.
Right.
It's to help those heroes kind of move along so they can update things.
Right. I think what would be really interesting is to have rotation systems based on either theming, balancing issues, or some other third thing.
I love this. Sell me on it, buddy.
I will. So the first thing on my docket is region-based. Let's say, for instance, in 2026, only cards from Volcor and Metrics are legal.
Oh.
And there will be evergreen sets that will always be legal, like, for instance, supplemental sets that were printed, like Everfest and Dynasty. And you'd also have, like, Welcome to Rathe and Arcane Rising, because those are, like, the baseline of the game. And that way you kind of curate a specific conflict or development of the world of Rathe for a year.
That sounds pretty cool.
You know what I loved about old Magic the Gathering?
What's that?
Was that they would almost spend a whole year on a plane.
Yeah.
They'd be like, here's Mirrodin. And then here's like the introduction of the Phyrexian corruption. And then new Phyrexia. And you're like, what the fuck happened to my play? And you watch the story play out over time.
Right.
One thing I've really criticized LSS for is like their storytelling is just not there.
Yeah.
Because we're jumping all over the place, meeting new people, and like nothing's happening.
Yeah.
It could also be a decent opportunity to reprint product. And I'm not necessarily saying this is like the best move LSS has ever done.
Yeah.
But once they said that the draft season for that Nat season was going to be Monarch, that we'd be going back to Monarch for competitive draft for a season when they reprinted Dusk Till Dawn. Sorry, when they initially released Dusk Till Dawn. And they relaunched Monarch, reprinting it, which also drove the value of the product into the ground. So I don't know if this would be something they need to do all the time. But now it's a lot easier for people to get a hold of Monarch cards. And it made sense that they wanted that because they were printing Dusk Till Dawn, which was like an expansion to Monarch.
Yeah.
Right. That's a really good point.
Also, like, I'm not sure how much people actually know the story of Volcor going from Uprising, or actually Uprising into Dynasty felt cool and flavorful.
Yeah, yeah.
Because we were in Uprising, and then immediately after we got Dynasty with, like, Arachne killing the Emperor. And there's that great story where Dromai kind of, like, walks in and sees the throne room in this turmoil and then turns around and is like, I'm about to be a bad bitch up in here. And we were like, okay, Dromai, go off. Let's see where you go from here. And now we're sort of waiting on the new Dromai hero card to come out and really show us what did she do after that, how she's been trying to move up the political ladder in Volcor. And maybe if we put all these sets a little bit closer together, it would hit a little bit harder.
Right.
And like the cards could be a little bit more connected. I do think there is a flaw in this, though, which is getting certain classes and talents in there from what people really, really like. This game is so siloed that spending a whole set in Volcor, what do the ice players do? You know, a whole year without them seeing any new ice cards? One of the things we've really loved LSS doing with expansion slots is keeping the game fresh. And if we were to do rotations in this way by like staying really focused in one area or another, I think it would hurt the wider player base.
I do agree with that. I think my gut react would be that there would be, hopefully, under the system, there'd be enough support either in generics or in the expansion slot of each of these sets under this new system where they could exist or could give extra support to classes outside of the 3 or 4 main ones in the core set. And in that way, even though it's a rotation system and you have like overarchingly powerful cards that are exempt from this set, you still have interesting gameplay from like brutes in a like assassin, ninja, ranger meta or whatever, but definitely valid. But you do bring up a good point, because what do ice players do in the Volcor and metric set? And that's why I was also thinking about like talent-based rotation systems. And so I sort of had this title in mind, like Year of the Bleak Storm, like similar to the Chinese Zodiac. I came up with the name Year of the Bleak Storm, and my idea behind this one was like only elements of like ice and lightning were legal for this set. And it would sort of be like, the control versus the aggro. And obviously you'd have more than just ice and lightning, but out of the talents, those are what would be the main focus for that year. So that if there's other rotations involved, like with either region or class or whatever, you also have talent, so that you create very specific metas in this way too. Because like talents influence so much of the rest of the game because they just have more flavor than the traditional classes.
Yeah. God, that'd be cool if, like, we could rotate talents specifically. Of course, then it's like, what do you mean I can't play Levi? Levi's not even good! What are you doing?
That's true.
Put me stuck on my hero.
And then I feel like a year would be like 1 year on to like 3 or 4 years off. It's kind of a lot of time to go between not being able to play the class or talent that I want, if only certain ones are allowed.
Yeah. I think talents are small enough to where it would be weird, where like if you don't have enough of them in a given meta, then it would just be like really feels bad.
You could even say 2/3 on, 1/3 off.
Yeah, I was gonna say it might be interesting to see these other rotation ideas in a world where I don't feel like we're still adding things to the game, right? I still feel like we're in a period of Flesh and Blood in terms of its like overall history as a game. I'm trying to think very holistically, take a big step back. I still think we're at a very early portion where a lot of new shit's getting introduced.
Oh, absolutely.
And like if we imagine the game in maybe a more static way where there is a set amount of talents, a set amount of classes, a rotation system based on these ideas start to make a little bit more sense, because you can expect a class to come back around again or a talent to come back around again. Oh, you're a Briar player, but Lightning is banned? Well, then you can play Florian, right? You have your Earth Runeblade right there. And then in another one, maybe Earth is banned, but Lightning's legal, so you play Aurora instead. And then when both are legal, you can play Briar again. And if there is like a Zodiac, like a very clear linear progression that is laid out ahead of time and is kept to by Legend Stories Studios, then people can plan around it. And they can be like, wow, none of the classes I want to play are available, or none of the talents I want to play are available, but I still have this base class. Right. I can then go play Viserai or some other base Runeblade. And as we get more heroes that can fill those gaps and we have less reliance on a single hero holding space, the moment that those areas start getting a little bit more cluttered, I think this becomes a lot more viable. We may see a rotation system like this 10, 15 years down the line. Maybe we're going to be crazy prophetic by saying this, but I don't think it is viable anytime soon.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think the game is actually really quite young. Like, any business that is like 3 to 5 years is still considered a young business by a lot of metrics.
Flesh and Blood's still a startup, baby.
Oh, absolutely. Small indie company, go Burr. And there are, like you said, there's a lot of stuff I think that still needs to be introduced. Like, we don't even have Clarikit ? And it would be a lot easier to not only plan around as a player, but LSS can do a lot of communication in this way too, because they can say, okay, for this year, we're going to do we're going to add Ice, Draconic, and, let's do fucking Light, for example. Even if you haven't had a set in a while with Draconic or Ice, you know that from this announcement, you will get Draconic and Ice this year. And so they can sort of plan releases that way too, which I think would be interesting.
I think the one thing that all of these are missing that I would really like to see incorporated with the current system is that every single player cares about the Living Legend system. Maybe not every single one, but when I say 90 to 95% of people who play Flesh and Blood care in some way about the Living Legend system and what happens with it, because everybody's tuning in, everybody's looking at that leaderboard, and it impacts everyone's play. I'd like to see something like that incorporated, right? Maybe the classes can all have a tally, and the class that gets the most points on the tally for the year is going to be rotated out and get to revisit it later, or the top performing and the bottom performing are both rotated out or something. I don't know.
I actually like that a lot.
So still some performance-based rotation element to it.
Basically, this is me saying the Living Legend system has this magic component to it that I think works really well, and I like what it's doing. And I would like any changes that we make, I think I want to keep that, because it's part of what makes Flesh and Blood special.
That makes sense, and I think a lot of people would agree. Similarly, if you in the audience have heard something in tonight's pitch that you think would be a really good change for Flesh and Blood, a really bad change for Flesh and Blood, or maybe you have something that we haven't heard yet that you'd like to talk about, let us know in the comments, come to the Discord and let us know. But with that being said, I'm going to pass it off to Fuzzy for Blue Pitch. What do you got for us?
All right, in Blue Pitch, I'm going to be talking about new sets and who they're for. Is it for existing heroes, or is it a chance for LSS to add new heroes to the game and print support for them? And
it's for new things.
He wants you to say old.
Old, it's for old. We're at arms.
We are creating fake conflict on the pod.
Civil War.
We are trying to give voice to the audience.
Settle down, you two. Because really, it's both, right? New expansions and sets are a chance for us to see new heroes added to the game, but we usually hope that the heroes that we've been playing and falling in love with already are also going to get new support. Like when they say, hey, in the new set, it's going to be a Ranger set. And we're like, oh boy, a Ranger set? Well, I love Azalea/Riptide, so maybe then my Azalea/Riptide deck is going to get some new jazz that I can put into my new deck, some new cards to sleeve up. And where does this come from? Why do we think that LSS like owes us new cards for our class and hero whenever like it gets printed?
I've suffered.
I-
That's why.
I have an answer. I just
Yeah.
it's because in most trading card games, that's kind of how it works.
Yeah, you always get shit to play with.
Yeah, like many trading card games have like a color system where you can put in like one or two colors to work together to make a deck. You know, Lorcana does that. Magic the Gathering does that very fluidly and dynamically. Pokemon kind of does that a little bit. Like, right, new expansions are a chance for your deck to get new cards, but Legend Story Studios, they do things a little bit differently. Now, if I play like Katsu, I might get an expansion slot card if I know there's not going to be any like ninja support in the set. Maybe a cool generic card that could slot into my list, but that's for anybody, right? Right? Anybody can use a generic. So I don't want generic cards. I want cards specifically for me. How reasonable is it for my hero to get support in any future set? Because I think when they said things like, oh, Rosetta is going to have wizards and rune blades, earth and lightning heroes, it's kind of reasonable for you to be like, oh, I'm a Kano player. Surely I'm going to get some Kano support, right?
They did.
They did, yeah.
Yeah, they got open the floodgates.
They got one card that you can play at Rainbow and maybe some other options. But the thing is, a lot of those options for Wizard were very based on these sigils.
Yeah.
So
True.
if I want to play these new cards to any good effect, I have to play these sigils that comes with it. Or I can just play Open the Floodgates and just put that into my deck.
Yeah.
And there were some cool Runeblade cards that like the other Runeblades got, like Deadwood Dirge is pretty good.
Malefic Incantations.
Malefic Incantation is also a very good card. Those are very real support.
Runeblades got real support in Rosetta.
They sure did.
Face Purgatory was really good. Like lots
my
of Runeblades were in
God,
that
yeah.
card.
Kurt's so good.
But is that like what that kind of gives us a barometer for what we can expect, right? Sometimes heroes and ideas are so siloed in the new sets that they are only willing to explore that one idea to its completion rather than explore old ideas. Like if we went and got Brute in a new set, what would you necessarily expect out of that set?
Discards.
Yellow 6 3-block.
Dice rolling. Like they could return to dice rolling or intimidate.
Or they could
print
do
intimidate cards.
none of that shit and have a completely new idea, and all of the Brute cards are going to be very focused on exploring and fleshing out this new idea. Let's think about the Hunted. So in the Hunted, it was Ninja, Assassin, and Warrior. And we had some new ideas to freshen up each of those different classes, right? Specifically daggers. We're doing daggers for everybody. Warriors have had some dagger support in the past, but then you look at the ninja cards in the set, and there's isn't a single one that doesn't ask you to make it draconic. They're all fake draconic ninja cards.
Yeah.
But there were lots of hybrid cards that were very usable for ninja. Specifically, all these ones that recur daggers, to the point where LSS had to ban Zephyr Needle. That's how good these cards were.
I forgot that happened.
They got so much support that they had to immediately ban the card that makes all the support good. Buffing Zephyr Needle is just so fucking good. So if you're a player that's playing Katsu and Zen, and you're looking at all the Hunted cards, you're like, this doesn't actually do a lot for me because I didn't really want to swing my daggers that much. I wasn't like looking to go into a dagger plan, and there aren't any new combo cards. But Ira did get a lot of support from the Hunted. So not all ninjas got support in the Hunted, but one or two of them did.
Yeah, and even then, how many cards was it really? I think one thing that is actually very interesting to look at is how many new cards get printed for each archetype. And because of Flesh and Blood's rainbow system, where cards will come in lots of different colors, they actually end up with a lot less designs than other card games in their sets.
Yep.
Like, yes, we have 260 slots in each set, But how many of those are taken up by tokens or by repeat card designs just at different colors?
Yeah.
And then how many of those actually end up being playable? AKA like showing up in, let's just say, top 64 deck lists, let's say.
Yeah.
I think it would be a much smaller number than most people would think.
I think it's under 10.
Like 10%?
10 cards.
Ooh. Yeah? I mean, hold on. Are you including different colors of cards?
No, I'm counting them as like one card.
Okay.
Like 10 unique cards, I should say.
Yeah. Well, because I do think that new heroes would throw this math off because they can use the full rainbow.
Yeah, for sure.
And I do like to see how LSS will expand the design of these classes with these ideas, and then they focus so hard on them on these expansions. That seems to kind of be the design trend that I'm seeing, right? Like, ooh, what if we did sigils and auras, and that's like Rosetta, and it's cool. But it's so siloed because all the cards in Rosetta care about fucking sigils and auras, you know?
Yeah.
So this is still all in pursuit of me trying to answer this question. How reasonable is it for me to expect my hero that shares a class with a hero in the new set? How reasonable is it for me to expect my hero to get some measure of support from the new set? In the case of the Hunted, it would kind of depend on which ninja I was planning on playing. Katsu and Zen don't get a lot, but Ira does, right? Mm-hmm. And part of that is because Katsu is a very siloed hero himself. He really just cares about combo cards, you know? So I probably shouldn't be expecting Katsu to get a lot of support, but I was kind of hoping to see a new weapon that Katsu might want to pick up rather than Kadachi's, and that didn't quite happen. If anything, they banned one of the weapons that he was thinking about playing.
Yeah.
In High Seas, we have two other case studies, Ranger and Mech. I'm going to talk about Mech first because most in High Seas for mechanologists care about cogs in some way, whether it's golden cogs or just having a cog. So if I want to run any of these cards in my constructed deck, I kind of need cogs in order to get the full use out of them. There might be some of these that just kind of have a nice rate that I might be able to cheese in without the cogs, maybe. Mm-hmm. Like Cogworks Dovetail is a 1 for 5. So maybe that blocks for 3. Maybe I don't need any cogs to make that card runnable, but I don't know. I kind of feel like it needs text in order to be runnable in my mech deck.
Yeah.
Some people have mentioned how, like, if you want an anti-fatigable boost mech, you can run, like, a single copy of Cog in the Machine in Dio, so that you can pay 1, get 2 action points and 2 items for 2 loads on your gun, and then shoot twice with those. And by tapping the cog that you make, because you don't care about other cogs, you can just put Cog in the Machine back to the bottom, so that later you have, again, a 1 resource, 2 action points, 2 pistol shots.
Oh, that's actually really smart.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Again, I can totally see there being instances like that of cards that, because that's the fun thing about Flesh and Blood is they print a bunch of stuff, and then sometimes the stat lines on these cards are just good enough that you can run them without the quote unquote like max synergy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I know that I've chirped in a lot this pitch, Fuzzy, and so I guess cut this if you guys want to, but one thing I do want to mention is that I was having a great conversation at an armory just yesterday where we were saying, like, what could be Flesh and Blood's, like, commander? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I don't think we can have a commander yet because, like, weird, wacky, off-meta builds aren't a thing right now. Mm-hmm. You know, there is no Dagger Katsu. Why can't there be Dagger Katsu?
Because you'd be ignoring his hero ability.
Yeah, but, like, what if, like, there was just a little something to, like, make it a little bit more viable? But because I just don't think we get those weird, wacky builds as much in Flesh and Blood as you can get in other games, partially because of how competitive we are as a community, but partially because I think we are such an eternal format, like the standard format is an eternal format, that they're not going to try to print a bunch of cards for old heroes. And, like, you're going to have to reach to find these wackier builds, and they're just not going to be as viable. They're not going to be as fun or interesting, and so they don't get built.
You know, this does kind of relate to what I'm talking about in my pitch, because I think if they want to explore new ideas for class identity, they do it through a new hero.
Yeah.
they're not going to make Dagger Katsu a thing. They're going to make a new ninja that focuses on daggers and print support for that hero, you know? It might even be talented to really like silo it off, you know?
Exactly what they did with Syndra.
Yeah. So...
Yeah, like, why another Draconic Ninja if we already have Phi? Because they want one to be dagger-oriented. They could have just put Phi in here and been like, okay, now you can have a Phi build, but, like, Phi can't get those daggers back. Doesn't have that free retrieve. It's a Phoenix Flame synergy. So, like, do they start building a bunch of Phoenix Flames into the set? No, because it's a dagger set, not a Phoenix Flame set.
And that's kind of what we're seeing with Mechanologist in High Seas. We knew that they were tired of doing boost mech.
Oh, yeah.
So here's their chance to really expand the design space of Mechanologist to have some hero that does not give a shit about boosting. If they want to boost, they can, but they really don't have to. And none of the support in this set has anything to do with boosting. Well, I wanted to also talk about Ranger in High Seas, although I think Ranger did a little bit of a better job of printing support for the existing Rangers, because we see a couple just like clutch Majestics like Return Fire. Seems like relatively easy to slot into old Ranger decks. There's cool arrows like Barbed Barrage, which gives them play against allies.
Or like Swift Shot.
Yeah, I was definitely about to mention, like, Swift Shot is just this really solid 0 for 4 go again arrow that's really easy for Rangers to play with. Or, like, even Dry Powder Shot just being a 0 for 5 arrow. Like, I could see a lot of these options being explored by Rangers outside of the ones that we just saw in this set. But just a couple key pieces, right? Like, one thing that I think Rangers were expecting is seeing, like, a new quiver, but there's no quivers printed at all in the set. There's just like the two that we've been working with since Outsiders, plus like the enchanted one, I guess, from Rosetta.
And their legendary is a little bit harder to work. If you compare that to like Face Purgatory for Rune Blades, okay, both of them are the class-based legendary in this sort of kind of siloed design inside the set. But Face Purgatory was much more playable in other Rune Blades than Sile Sarong is in other Rangers.
So that's the tension that I'm really trying to bring up here is, are expansions solely primarily to create new heroes and put new heroes and new strategies into the game? Or are expansions meant to give support to existing strategies and existing heroes? Because I think most people would say both, but do you think LSS has been doing both well in the last couple sets? What do you guys think?
I think no, but it's hard to do it correctly.
I don't think they can do it correctly.
Yeah, it would be really tough.
I think it's also like, hey, do you want the new heroes to be strong or weak?
Yeah.
And it's like, when the new heroes are strong, it's like, oh my god, I can't believe they're power creeping this game again.
Yep.
And then when the new heroes are weak, it's like, well, I guess they just don't care about our class.
Yeah.
And it's like, whatever choice they do, someone's gonna be upset.
Absolutely.
Every single time.
Yeah, it is a tough position to be in. Because, like, you know, if we go back to the Hunan example, I think every warrior player was like, why the fuck are they doing daggers? Sword is like...
Oh, I heard that at least 8 times at a single armory.
Probably a lot for me, too. But
you were at least 2 of them.
that's par for the course.
Look, here's like kind of... To recontextualize it, at the risk of throwing us all off on a whole nother conversation.
Oh, yeah, of course.
There are 3 brutes in the game right now, Rhinar, Leviah, and KO. And if they told us we're going to the Savage Lands and there's going to be a brute set, a set with brute in it, those 3 heroes are not equally likely to get actual good support that we would see in the next deck, right? I think like KO would be the most likely. Leviah would probably be the least likely. But even Rhinar, like, would they be printing necessarily like Intimidate support in the set? It seems I'd be skeptical of that.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%.
So it could be that like KO is the only hero that feels like he can pick up new cards. And wouldn't that feel like a little bit weird? I don't know.
Good call.
But yeah, that's what I've been thinking about lately. Thank you for smorgasbording with me. Are you guys ready to go on to our Arsenal Zone?
Let's go to the Arsenal Zone!
And for those of you who have never listened to the pod before, the Arsenal Zone is a part of the show where we pick a card. And it could be a card that we like, a card that we hate, a card that we like to hate, Either way, we're going to each give our own. But first, we're going to start off with a Patreon subscription.
That's right. If you subscribe to our Patreon for $5, you get to suggest a card for us to shout out here at the beginning of our Arsenal Zone. Every single time we record, we pick a patron and a card that they suggested. We also keep it forever, so you don't have to give a new one every single week. We hold on to it. And this week, our winner is...
Dice roll noise.
Old Barnacle! Woo! Shout out at the beginning and the end of an episode? Man.
Yeah, he's our favorite.
He's pretty goated today.
And fun fact, I'm pretty sure he just subscribed very recently because this is his first submission.
Wow.
And we are getting out of the way immediately.
Yeah. So Old Barnacle has put forward Back Alley Break Line. Ooh. Back Alley Break Line is a generic attack action card. At red, it costs 1, comes in for 5, and blocks for 2. And it says, when this enters a different zone from your deck, you gain 1 action point. It was originally printed in, I want to say, Arcane Rising or Outsiders?
Arcane Rising.
Arcane Rising, as a way for Azalea to get some nice action points. You find it on top, you use her ability, you get some go again, and then with your floating resources, you can load off of Death Dealer, throw another arrow.
And he had this to say about it. A card I've been happy to see more is Back Alley Break Line. The effect used to just be something you can take advantage of if it got milled or banished during your own turn, and not many effects helped you do that. Then we got Call to the Grave, which could be an on-demand action point which I've seen Levia decks use sometimes, but was still a little lacking. Now, though, we have things like Chart the High Seas and Saltwater Swell that pitch it from the top of your deck, which satisfies the conditions, and can net you 3 resources and an action point. Very fun with Gravy when it lines up, and if they continue this pitch trend in the future, it could be a very powerful addition to other decks. Well said.
Yeah.
I've had a really fun time playing with this card in my Gravy Bones deck. I've been kind of sick, so I haven't had a lot of time to practice, but like being able to pitch it with Saltwater Swell or Chart the High Seas is like that new synergy that we just have not been able to play with. Like you would think that effect has been in the game already, being able to pitch off the top of your deck, but no, it's not a thing.
Yeah. I mean, it is easily one of the most powerful abilities, I think, especially for Saltwater Swell. You know, the ability to get 3 free resources off the top. Wacky.
And an action point if it's Back Alley Break Line. It's crazy.
That's so fucking crazy.
I knew about it from Call to the Grave because, like Old Barnacle said, you can use it in Levia.
Yeah, there were some weird Levia lists.
But I didn't know you could do it with Saltwater as well until right now. That's pretty insane, actually.
Or Chart the High Seas.
Yeah.
If anything, I think it's a really nice budget option for anyone not trying to buy that fucking amulet. Just run an extra copy of Back Alley Break Line.
What amulet?
The action point amulet. It's like $150.
Diamond amulet?
Yeah. It's crazy how much money
do not buy that card.
No.
Buy Back Alley Break Line.
Yeah, here's a 2-cent common from Arcane Rising. You're gonna get your action point.
Yep. So thank you, Old Barnacle, for the suggestion and for the subscription. We would really appreciate having you. And I think he's been a longtime fan, like probably when we were before like 100 subscribers. Or
I think he was one of the ones that Talon brought in because Talon had the whole Riptide Discord.
Yeah, I think half of our initial subscribers were Riptide enjoyers.
It was locals and Riptide enjoyers.
Yeah. Very, very telling of our fan base. But we appreciate having you on, and thank you again for your submission. And for those of you who submitted a cool card but didn't hear about it in today's podcast, keep submitting or don't. We're going to get to your name eventually, and we'll talk about your card at some point.
Yeah.
Who wants to go next? Clark? Fuzzy?
I'll go first. My card is Avast Ye.
Oh!
Avast Ye, RGs.
This is a blue block 3 rare from High Seas. Costs 0, and it says your next ally attack this turn gets go again, and when it hits a hero, create a gold token. And it's a pirate necromancer non-attack action.
That's fucking crazy.
Yep, you could just, this gives your attacks go again. It's nice. And because it's a blue starter, you can play an ally, and then immediately, like, that could be your go again ally. So you could, like, play this, and then pitch a blue to play, like, Sawbones or Rigor Mortis, and then swing with it for 6. It could be a 2-card 6.
With an on-hit.
That gold is pretty nice. Because once you've made a gold through any of your other on-hits, then you can tap your hook to threaten another one for free, basically.
Yeah, super good card. Just fucking solid. And there's a whole cycle of them, right?
There's a lot of different starters. This is the one that gives Go Again to an attack.
Yeah, it's definitely considered one of the best ones.
Gotcha.
Because Go Again is so important in Gravy Bones, right?
It's pretty
He used
good.
to fight for all his action points.
Nope.
And then, of course, they gave him 8 ways of getting action points. It's almost like we've seen that somewhere before.
And I brought a copy to sign for each of you.
Wow! Thank you, Fuzzy. Well, I think I'll go next.
All right, go for it.
The card that I am talking about is Battalion Bark.
Baruki.
I'm talking about this card for 2 reasons. But first, let me tell you the text on the card.
All right.
Battalion Bark is a pirate attack action card. It costs 4, and at red attacks for 7 and blocks for 3. But it has a new keyword ability, High Tide, where if you have 2 blues in your pitch zone, it gains +2 power,
Wow.
which is pretty cool. And it also has on its text box some flavor text. Reason number 1 I'm talking about this card. Captain Vanagle, there be a sea dog whose bark be worse than his bite. Swiller Saltbeard.
It's a pun.
It's a pun! But also, I really like this. One, I like that it has a little bit of the humor that LSS is sort of becoming known for in their cards. I think that is a good thing to have in a card game. I loved the humorous flavor text in Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, like every time they have a counter spell, they have to print some cheeky retort like on it.
Yeah, it's really, really cute. And so I don't mind it when they do little puns like this here in flavor text.
And not say the hero's name.
Very different, very different. Gravy Bones, You Gross Patooey, Battalion Bark with some flavor text, bark worse than bite. Oh yeah, love that shit. And also, this is the first in a series of cards throughout the set that tell a story. And I know that you just got done with us pitching our Patreon once, but I think I'm going to be writing an article either this month in June or next month in July where I talk about storytelling in Flesh and Blood.
Oh.
And I'm going to be mentioning this line of cards. If you can figure it out, tell me in the comments, and I'll let you know if you're right or not.
Do not miss that Clark special.
Yeah. The reason, too, why I'm talking about this card is because I really love High Tide Flavor Flea.
Yeah.
Again, sort of like this storytelling, this flavor in cards. It's really, really important to make people build an emotional connection with these commons and rares. For me, that's a very important thing in a TCG. And High Tide, have you guys noticed the pattern with High Tide?
Two blue.
Not just 2 blue. One, that's great, right? Very pirate, very ocean themed, right?
Mm-hmm.
You get these blues and you augment the card. But what is the card that augments?
It's a boat.
It's always a boat.
Yeah.
Every single card with High Tide. And there are no other cards where the boat is the main focus of the card. There's the Gold Hunter, or the Gold, like, Hunter, Light Sail, Gold Hunter, Marauder, Gold Hunter Catch, where, yes, boats are a big part of the art, but they aren't the focus of the art. They aren't the subject of the piece in the same way. The only cards where the boat is the subject of the art, they have High Tide on it. And that is excellent flavor. Great job, LFF.
Specifically a boat, not a ship.
Yeah.
Because there's the Palantir Aeronaut. That's not a high tide card. That's a ship. That's not a boat.
Ship, not a boat. It's in the sky. It doesn't count. Fuck that noise. Boats on the ocean get augmented by High Tide.
That's pretty fucking cool, actually.
It's pretty fucking cool. And Flesh and Blood isn't the kind of community where people pay attention to that. I feel like that would have been found in week 1 of if this was a Magic set. But I wanted to shout it out because I think it's cool. And I've spent too long talking about this, so now my section is done.
Cool. I'm going to go next then.
Shoot.
For my card, I wanted to talk about Channel Lightning Valley. Ooh, not a warrior card. It's a lightning instant aura, yellow pitch, 0 cost, and it says the first time you deal damage to an opposing hero each turn, draw a card. And then the same channel mechanics for every channel card. And the reason why I want to talk about this card is because I was thinking about it while I was doing the notes for my rotation section. And this just seems like a card that was at the forefront of a lot of people calling for its ban when Aurora was running around doing her thing.
Definitely.
And it is a powerful card. Very, very flashy, and it can turn games around if, she draws a D-react with it or finds some way to deal damage to you on your offensive turn. And it just makes me think, like, if there were a rotation system where there are certain metas where this is legal, maybe in a rotation where there's lots of aura hate or lots of instant hate, or for instance, like with high seas, I felt like there was a lot of ways to stop people from drawing cards or punish people for drawing cards, and then we're getting Valda eventually, who would really punish our people drawing cards. And if there is a way to just like control X onto Aurora and then paste her back into a meta where they can deal with her appropriately, because I feel like she lacked a lot of counters when Viceroy left the meta and Enigma left the meta, it would just be a little bit different of a landscape. Maybe people wouldn't be focusing on this card as much. So that's my card. That's what I was thinking about. Obviously, very, very powerful lightning card, and I'm excited for the next time that Briar can use it, if at all.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. I think that's the end of today's episode. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. And boys, thank you for podding with me.
Thank you for podding with me, Clark.
Oh, yeah, brother. Until next time, guys. Bye.
So long.
Bye.
Pitch It To Me podcast is hosted by Joel Recinos, Clark Moore, and Fuzzy Delp. Our executive producer is Talon Stradley. Our logistics coordinator is John Farkas. Music is produced by Dillon Hulse. Logo is designed by Han V. And our sound mixing is done by Christopher Moore. Last but not least, thank you, the listener, for taking the time to listen to our podcast. Be sure to give us a follow on your favorite social media platform at Pitch It To Me podcast.